The 2024 Wisconsin Badgers football team could be one of the most interesting football programs in America. Yes, you heard me right when I said that. Between the resources at Wisconsin, the fan base at Wisconsin, and the staff that has been put together at Wisconsin, to the roster that has been put together, which I think is incredibly well rounded, as we will get to in this video. I think that Wisconsin is going to be one of the main players in the Big Ten Conference. But there are some downsides to this program, however many upsides there are. The schedule is ridiculously tough, in my opinion, as we will get to in this video. So stay here on this video, on this episode of the Big Ten Quick Talk podcast. Make sure you drop a subscription down below. There's a number of things going on with this channel, and you don't want to miss it. So make sure you enable alerts, like the video, comment your thoughts down below on Wisconsin football. And this video will be put into two parts. The first part will talk about the roster, and the second part we will have a schedule breakdown. So now let's look at the Wisconsin roster and my roster preview. Notice we have the offensive and defensive positions ranked on a scale of A to D. And in the middle, we have the positional strengths and positional weaknesses that I see that jump out to me, and that will be flushed out in this segment here. So let's start off with the quarterback. I gave the quarterback room a B minus. I am not the biggest fan of Tyler Van Dyke. I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. He has some talent. That's why this room is a B plus. It's not like down at D or C minus. So there is some talent there with Tyler Van Dyke, but he has a ceiling, and I think that ceiling is very low. I don't think he's going to be a guy that passes for over 5,000 yards, goes on to be in the top 10, top 20 in quarterbacks for passing yards. I don't think he's that type of a guy. He's not a great runner, in my opinion. So, again, this is just constructive criticism on my end. I do think that he has a higher floor. Like, I don't think he's just going to just make this team terrible. I just see him as a B minus quarterback, in my opinion, and I think I'm allowed to have that opinion. And for that reason, I think that the quarterback room is a potential weakness of this roster, because this roster is a pretty darn good roster, and this is one of the lower points on the roster that I see. So for that reason, I have the quarterback at a B minus level, just a really average quarterback in Tyler Van Dyke, in my opinion. I'm not saying he can't grow under Phil Longo and really make some strides and become a B plus quarterback, a really solid quarterback, and lead this team to 9 wins. I'm not saying that that's out of the realm of possibility. I think that could be a likely scenario if certain things go right for Wisconsin, but I really don't see this quarterback room doing something special, something that will be remembered for a long time. And that's just me. I could be wrong, but from what I've seen out of Tyler Van Dyke at Miami and just everything else, all the other indicators, I just think that he's a pretty darn average quarterback. So next up, we have the running back room. I graded this room as a B. I think this is a very solid B graded running back room. You have Chez Mellusi starting, presumably, if he's healthy. Never seems to be fully healthy, but leave the health equation out of it. I just don't think that Chez Mellusi is an A grade running back. I don't think he's really even an A minus, B plus graded running back. I think he's more at the B minus level. I just I don't think he's that great of a running back, at least for Wisconsin standards. You know, Wisconsin has the standard of you being a really, really good running back, and they churn out a ton of really good running backs. But I just don't see Chez Mellusi having that it factor that a lot of those other Wisconsin running backs had. But I really did like the pickup of Tawee Walker. I think that he was a very good pickup, the senior transfer, and he will be the 1-2 punch with Chez Mellusi. And I think that this is really good for the offense, because Chez Mellusi is not going to have to carry this offense on his back. I know that they're going to be passing the ball a ton. They're going to be running the ball a ton. But at least when they run the ball, it's not going to be Chez Mellusi every time. They're going to work in Walker. They're going to work in some of these other running backs, Cade Yamaselli, Jackson Aker. Jackson Aker is the guy that I've seen make some headlines in the offseason as a guy to watch out for. And I think that this running back room is a very solid B. Could be as high as an A minus by the end of this year. I could be very honest with you guys there and say that, but for right now, I have them as a B. So here's where the conversation gets really interesting, in my opinion, with the wide receiver, tight end, the receiver room. I graded this as an A minus. I think the wide receiver room's an A. I think that this wide receiver room just filled with studs, in my opinion. Will Pauling, one of the best players on this team, a top 3 player on this team, in my opinion. He is elite. He is a very elite wide receiver coming out of the slot. And I saw him torch numerous teams. He's out there torching LSU. He's torching Nebraska. He's torching Iowa. He's torching all these teams. And I think that he's just an outstanding wide receiver. And then on the outsides, you have Bryson Green and CJ Williams, two guys that I think are really good at what they do on the outside. They're a perfect combo with Will Pauling in the slot. And I think that this wide receiver room is really, really good. Now at tight end, you see that I have the tight end position under potential weakness because we haven't seen much out of Tucker Ashcraft, and this whole tight end room, not a whole lot of production there. And I'm not quite sure the offensive scheme allows for too much of the tight end to really be involved in the passing attack. But I think that the tight end room could use could have used an upgrade in the transfer portal, but I don't see a whole lot coming out of this tight end room, which is why I have it as a weakness and why the receiver portion of this is graded as an A minus. It could have been an A, even an A plus for the wide receivers alone, but the tight end room dragged it down to an A minus, in my opinion. And lastly, we have the offensive line. This offensive line is going to be very, very good. I don't think it's quite elite. Which is why I have it as an A minus, but it is it's a great offensive line, in my opinion. Just this offensive line has a ton of experience coming back and a ton of production. You look at guys like center Jake Renfro, going to be a high pick in the NFL draft. You guys look at guys like Jack Nelson at tackle, Joe Bruner at guard, Joe Hubbard at guard as well. These are all guys that are really experienced and really good at what they do. So this offensive line, while I don't think is the elite of the elite, is a darn good offensive line. So I gave it an A minus. Now looking at the defensive line, I gave that a B plus. This is a very solid defensive line. Wisconsin's always known for those solid defensive lines. James Thompson Jr., flat out stud, redshirt senior at the defensive tackle position. He is a great combo with Kurt Neal, and both of those players are really good at what they do. I don't think they're quite elite, but I think that they are very, very good. So a B plus for the defensive line. And at linebacker, I gave them a B plus. I think that they're very good here as well. Getting guys like the edge rusher, pseudo linebacker John Pius from William and Mary transferred in. He was one of their best players, so that'll be a welcome addition. Tackett Curtis, he's my impact transfer on defense. I think that he's going to be one of the best players on this defense, period. I think that he is just a star in the making there at linebacker. And Jake Chaney, he led the team. Correction, he was second on the team in tackles last year. The first on the team was Hunter Wohler. We will get to in a second with secondary, but Jake Chaney is a very good linebacker as well. So this linebacker room, really solid linebacker room. So I have them at a B plus. And the secondary I have as an A minus. I was splitting hairs here. They could have been a B plus. They could have been a little bit higher, especially the linebacker room. They could have been a little bit higher, but again, just splitting hairs. The secondary is very, very good. Ricardo Hallman, regarded as one of the best corners in the nation, certainly in the Big Ten, but also in the nation. I mentioned Hunter Wohler, leading tackler from last year back at strong safety, and he is a stud. Ricardo Hallman, stud. Austin Brown at the nickelback, he's a very good player. And I think all these guys are just really solid players, so Wisconsin has a very solid defense. So now we go to the schedule breakdown that I have written up for you guys here. So notice that this is the schedule for these Michigan Wolverines. As we go through the certain sections that I have pointed out, you'll catch on really soon. In games that I think Wisconsin has a 0 to 30% chance, games that I don't think Wisconsin will be favored in by a substantial amount, those will come up in orange when I talk about them. Games that I think are certified wins, you can just look at week 1 and week 2, just for instance. Those are games that I have as certified wins. There's a sneak peek for you. But games like that will be in the lighter blue color. Games that I think Wisconsin will have a significant edge in, the 60 to 80% range, will be in purple as we get to them. And then the pick'em games will be games that are, you can pick them, flip a coin. They're going to be more like 50-50, 55-45, stuff like that. So those will be in that Wisconsin red color. So let's get started here. All right, so starting off, we will talk about the games that I think Wisconsin will not be favored in by a significant margin. Versus Alabama, yes, this game is at home. Yes, it's going to be a great environment at Wisconsin, but I just think Alabama, it just has too much star power and has really a proven coaching staff that is able to win at a high level with Kalen DeBoer. And I think that Alabama's not going to fall off very much from where they were with Nick Saban. They'll be right there in the top 10 in the preseason polls and all the way pretty much through the season, in my opinion. So I think that this game is going to be very hard for Wisconsin to win. Notice that this is not a prediction video. My prediction videos will drop later in the year. All the more reason to subscribe and turn on notifications so that you can get alerted when more Wisconsin Badgers content comes out, when more Big Ten football content comes out. So just a heads up there. And then my other game that I have at that Wisconsin's going to be at a disadvantage for is versus Oregon. Now, I've teased before on this channel that I can see Wisconsin pulling this game out. It's late in the year. It's going to be cold out. It's going to be at home with a great environment like that Wisconsin has. But just looking at it head to head and just looking at how good Oregon is, having done my Oregon season preview, I think that Oregon is going to have about a 70 to 30 in just in terms of percentages, a win expectancy there. So we move to the certified win category. Pretty easy. We can just kind of gloss over this. Versus Western Michigan and versus South Dakota, Wisconsin will handle them with ease, and really nothing else to say there. All right, so moving to our next segment, the segment where I think that Wisconsin has a 60 to 80% chance of winning that game. I have versus Purdue. I think Wisconsin's going to be pretty favored versus Purdue. I don't think Purdue's going to be a very good team this year. They look strong in the trenches, but I do not trust Hudson Card at all, really. So I don't like Purdue. I don't like their defense really at all. Their secondary linebackers, I'm worried about that. But I think that Wisconsin will be able to, at home, coming off of a tough game at USC, if they lose that game, they'll be able to take out their revenge on Purdue. If they win that game, it's just even more confidence going into that Purdue game at home. So I think it's a win-win just in terms of where Purdue lines up on the schedule. And I think that, again, Purdue's not going to be a very good team. So I think that Wisconsin's going to be able to handle their own when it comes to Wisconsin. But hey, maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe I predict Purdue to upset Wisconsin, whatever. But I think that Wisconsin will have a decided edge over Purdue. I don't think it's going to be a 55-45 edge. I think it's more of a 65 to 70% of win probability there. My next game is at Northwestern. Northwestern is going to be a pesky team this year. Do not overlook Northwestern. That's what everyone did last year, and a lot of teams paid for it, including Wisconsin last year. Very surprised that Wisconsin lost that game last year at Northwestern. But again, though, I think that Northwestern, again, going to be a pesky team, but on paper, Wisconsin should dominate Northwestern. Will it happen? I think that Wisconsin has a decided edge over Northwestern, so I think that could be a likely scenario. My last game here in this range is versus Minnesota. I don't think Minnesota's going to be a very good program at all next year. PJ Fleck could be on the hot seat after this coming year. I don't think that Minnesota reaches a bowl game. And I'm very convicted when I talk about Minnesota. They're really their only bright spot is at running back with that guy at running back Taylor, I think is his name off the top of my head. But again, this is a Wisconsin video, so let me get back on track here. I think that Wisconsin has a decided edge over Minnesota in this great rivalry. So my last segment here, the Pick'em region of the Wisconsin Badgers schedule. I have at USC. Wisconsin, I think, matches up pretty well with USC, but this game being at USC definitely hurts their chances of winning here. I would favor USC by a couple of points, 53-47, something around there. But again, this is a 50-50 matchup by all accounts, so I think that Wisconsin will be able to hold their own versus USC. At Rutgers, again, a team that is very, very good. Really, the complete opposite of USC. USC Rutgers is going to be a very interesting game this year. Getting back on topic though, Wisconsin and Rutgers is going to be a fun matchup. This game being in Piscataway does hurt Wisconsin's chances of winning. So again, like at USC, I think at Rutgers, Wisconsin, I think that Rutgers will be favored like 53% to 47%, something around that range. Versus Penn State, this game is in the pick'em range for Wisconsin. This Wisconsin has the home field advantage in this game. They're going to be coming off of some wins. Hopefully, you got Purdue and Northwestern in there, real close to that Penn State game. And if they pull out a win versus Rutgers, I think they could be 3-0 in the past 3 weeks going up to this Penn State game. And it'll be at home, like I said. And I think that Wisconsin matches up really well with what Penn State is trying to do on offense and on defense. I think that that's going to be a great showdown between Wisconsin's pass-heavy attack and Penn State's linebackers, which I think are some of the best in the nation, and their secondary, which is very solid as well. At Iowa, this is a game that I can see Wisconsin winning. Iowa, I think, regresses this year. I think goes around 9-3, 8-4. They do have a pretty easy schedule, but this is a game that, again, is going to be 50-50. You could flip a coin for this one. Obviously not if you're a Wisconsin Badgers fan, or an Iowa fan for that matter. But point still stands. At Nebraska, again, a game being at Nebraska late in the year, a team that's, in my opinion, going to finish with a very high win total in Nebraska. This is going to be a tough game at Memorial Stadium. Very tough place to play. So that's all I got for this video. Thank you for watching, and subscribe, turn on notifications, look at the community posts, do all that stuff, and I'll see you guys in the next season preview.